I'm Alexis.
And I'm Tiffany, and we're the hosts of Legit KidLit, a video series where we get to see into the secret and silly lives of authors and illustrators.
We love to celebrate and promote books, but most of all, we want to say hey to all you readers out there trying to find that right book for you. We hope that you can find some new reads after today.
Today we welcome Katya. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start off with learning about your newest book, Oasis. Katya writes for young adult audiences, so her books are really geared for 14 and up. But we know that our younger viewers will still have fun getting to know her and looking forward to reading her books later.
Hi everyone, I'm Katya de Becerra. I'm an author based in Melbourne, Australia. I'm very excited to be here for this interview. My books to date are What Would Skip and Oasis. What Would Skip, that came out in 2018, is a genre bender that combines elements of thriller, mystery, science fiction, and horror. And it's the story of a young woman who has to investigate her mom's mysterious disappearance 10 years ago. And my latest novel to date is Oasis, that came out in 2020. And it's about a group of teens who are from Melbourne but who go to Dubai to participate in an excavation site, and they get caught up in a sandstorm, and when they find themselves stranded in the desert, it becomes like a survivor thriller, and they're rescued by a mysterious oasis that appears out of nowhere and shouldn't be there, and I won't say anything else. I have also written some short stories in various anthologies, and some of which you can already check out, including a Sherlock Holmes anthology called The Only One in the World, which reimagines these characters as anything but Victorian English.
Your books sound amazing! Booklist Starred Review said your book Oasis was, quote, haunting supernatural thriller will stick to readers' skin long after the final page is turned. Was there anything in particular that you read or saw that inspired some of the ideas for your book?
What inspired Oasis? Oasis is my love letter, my tribute to a lot of old science fiction novels that I used to read as a teenager, one of which is Solaris by Stanislav Lem. You may have heard of a movie based on this book by Tarkovsky, which is one of my favorite movies, and there's also a more recent Hollywood version. But I think what really fascinated me when I was reading Solaris as a kid, as a teenager, is that it explored very complex ideas in a beautiful kind of lyrical language, but also it made you think about how would a different species, an alien species or a completely different consciousness, how would it express itself, how could you communicate, the idea of the first contact with an alien species. All of that stayed with me, and I think when I was writing Oasis, which is also set in one of my favorite places in Dubai. I love going there. And I felt that it would answer that question that I was wondering about, interspecies communication or alien communication. So this is really what this novel is about, without giving away much. But overall ideas for me come from anywhere, literally anywhere. I would be watching something and I would come up with an idea that kind of vaguely relates to the plot of the story, or I would start asking myself a question, but what happens to this character, and it will go from there. But I think ideas can come from anywhere, and I think there are some topics and themes that we gravitate towards as artists, as writers, and anything can spark an idea or a question. So I always find it difficult to answer this question because ideas come from anywhere.
Do you typically know the ending of your story before you write the rest of it?
I don't normally know the ending of my books until I start writing them, but it really depends on each book. With some books like Oasis, I kind of knew the ending I wanted to go for, but not the specifics of it. But with my first book, with What Would Skip, I tried different endings and experimented with it until I got to something that felt right. So it really depends on each individual project.
What Netflix show do you think your main character Aleph would be into right now?
So when I wonder which TV show Aleph, my main character from Oasis, would be into, I think she'd be into shows with survival elements. So something like Lost in Space, or perhaps Squid Game. She'd be into that because she could relate to that experience.
Finish this sentence. If someone were into this book, they would be into Oasis.
If someone enjoyed the TV show Lost or books like Solaris, I think they would enjoy Oasis.
Have you always wanted to be a writer?
I didn't always want to be a writer, but I was always writing something from a very young age. I was always writing poetry and short stories, but I never thought about being a writer as a career choice or as something that you do in a professional sense. Maybe because I grew up in a family environment where I was expected to have a real job. So I ended up becoming an academic. I work at the university, and I think writing creatively is something that I came to a bit later in life, in my late 20s, that is when I started to write with an idea to write a novel that I wanted to try and publish traditionally. So I think deep down, I always was a person who knew there would be writing as something that you do as part of your life, but I never thought about it as a career choice until fairly recently.
Do you have any hidden talents?
In terms of hidden talents, I suppose I can play piano. Not a lot of people know that, but I actually studied classical piano for 8 years, and I finished like a musical school, conservatory, parallel to high school. So I don't actually play that much anymore, but I can. And I think in terms of hidden talents, not sure if it's a very hidden talent, but I'm very good at giving advice. So if you need advice or maybe feedback on something, I'm really good at that.
And this is my favorite. We hear there's a song that turned you into a karaoke star. Want to share?
I'm not much of a singer, but I do enjoy karaoke, and I don't have a very good voice, but there are some songs that kind of exist for me, for my range, and I can show off very, very well with those songs. And one of them, I won't be singing though. One of them is Love Hurts by Nazareth. It's a Nazareth version, so you can listen to that and imagine me singing it. And another one is Don't Rain on My Parade by Barbra Streisand. So you can see I have a range.
What's next for you? Any new or upcoming projects?
So what's next for me? I do have some very exciting but super secret news I cannot share with you, but I do have it. That's all I'm going to say. In terms of things that I can talk about, there are some short stories that are coming your way. One of them is actually quite long, so I would call it like novelette, maybe, because it's not a novella, but it's not a short story, it's like in between, so I think it's called novelette. And it's called She's Come Undone. And it's not a young adult story, and it's appearing in an anthology of horror called Emporium of Superstition. So that's coming in October this year, and it's going to be amazing. I've read quite a few stories already from this anthology, and oh my goodness, let me tell you, you're going to be thrilled, excited, spooked, freaked out. Each story reinterprets an old wives' tale, so a superstition that exists in your culture or across cultures. And the one I'm tackling in my story, She's Come Undone, is Don't Step Over a Crack. So that's all I'm going to say, but check it out. I've been talking about it on my social media, and it has a beautiful cover. And I have other short stories that have been accepted in 2 other anthologies, but that hasn't been officially announced yet. So watch this space, follow me on social media for news, and sign up for my newsletter which you can find on my website to be first to know.
Thanks, Katya, for hanging out with us today. To all of our readers, we hope you enjoyed our show and are inspired to pick up Katya's book, Oasis.
Thank you all for having me. I'm really grateful. I hope you enjoyed this interview. And if you have any questions or just want to reach out and say hi, you can always get in touch with me. Just check out my website. Links in my Instagram bio. I'm very easy to find and contact. And thank you all. Bye.
Be sure to head over to Instagram for our author book giveaway.